Imagine waking up to the news that China has officially overtaken the US as the world's largest economy, or that Taiwan has just been invaded, or that an AI-driven cyber war between Washington and Beijing has begun. These scenarios aren't just hypothetical, they're possibilities shaping the geopolitical landscape today. The US and China aren't just rivals, they're locked in a battle that will define the next century. But who will emerge on top? And what does this mean for the rest of the world? Stay with us as we uncover the hidden forces behind the world's most important power struggle. Welcome to Shifting Powers, where we dive deep into the forces shaping the global order. Today, we're exploring the biggest rivalry of our time, the battle for dominance between the United States and China. This isn't just a political or economic competition, it's a fight over who will set the rules for the 21st century. From trade wars to military build-ups, from semiconductor supremacy to global alliances, the world is witnessing a superpower showdown like never before. Who has the upper hand? And more importantly, what happens if one side wins? For much of the last century, the United States stood unchallenged as the world's dominant power. With its vast economic influence, unmatched military, and a network of global alliances, Washington shaped the international system to its advantage. But the rise of China has fundamentally altered this equation. Over the past 4 decades, China has transformed from an isolated communist state into the world's second-largest economy, a technological powerhouse, and a military giant capable of projecting power far beyond its borders. This rapid ascent has put Beijing and Washington on a collision course, with flashpoints across multiple domains. Economically, China's rise has been nothing short of spectacular. Once seen as the world's factory, producing cheap goods for Western markets, China has moved up the value chain, now competing with the US in cutting-edge industries like artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and green energy. Through massive state-led investment, Beijing has built companies that rival the biggest American tech giants, with firms like Huawei challenging US dominance in 5G, and Chinese electric vehicle makers taking on Tesla. Meanwhile, initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, have expanded China's economic reach across Asia, Africa, and even Europe, pulling dozens of countries into Beijing's orbit through infrastructure deals and financial dependency. For Washington, this economic expansion isn't just about money, it's about influence. The US has responded with trade restrictions, tariffs, and technology bans, attempting to curb China's rise. The most critical battle is happening over semiconductors, the tiny but essential components that power everything from smartphones to fighter jets. By restricting China's access to advanced chip-making technology, the US hopes to slow Beijing's progress in AI and military applications. But China isn't backing down. It has doubled down on self-sufficiency, investing hundreds of billions into developing its own semiconductor industry. This economic war is escalating, with both sides increasingly decoupling from each other, reshaping global trade in the process. Beyond economics, the US-China rivalry is also playing out militarily, with tensions rising across the Indo-Pacific. At the heart of the conflict is Taiwan, the self-governing island that Beijing considers a breakaway province, while the US sees it as a critical ally and a symbol of democratic resistance against authoritarianism. Over the past 2 years, China has dramatically increased its military pressure on Taiwan, conducting large-scale naval drills, sending fighter jets into Taiwan's air defense zone, and openly preparing for the possibility of invasion. Washington, in turn, has stepped up arms sales to Taipei, increased military cooperation with regional allies like Japan, Australia, and the Philippines, and expanded its naval presence in the South China Sea. If war breaks out over Taiwan, it could pull the entire world into conflict. The US has not officially committed to defending Taiwan, but President Biden has repeatedly suggested that Washington would intervene if China invades. Beijing, however, is determined to reunify Taiwan with the mainland, whether peacefully or by force. The consequences of such a conflict would be catastrophic. Not only would it disrupt global supply chains, particularly in semiconductors, but it could also escalate into a full-scale US-China war, drawing in other powers like Japan, India, and even NATO. But the battle between the US and China isn't just being fought with weapons, it's also a war over alliances and global influence. In recent years, China has aggressively expanded its diplomatic footprint, forging closer ties with countries that once aligned with the West. Through organizations like BRICS and deals like its energy agreements with Russia and Iran, Beijing is positioning itself as the leader of a new, non-Western global order. The US, meanwhile, is working to strengthen old alliances and build new ones. Agreements like AUKUS, a security pact with Australia and the UK, closer ties with India, and efforts to bring NATO into the Pacific all signal that Washington is preparing for a long-term standoff with China. Despite this competition, the world isn't neatly divided into two camps. Many countries, particularly in the global south, are trying to balance relations with both superpowers. Nations like India, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia are strategically engaging with both China and the US, leveraging their positions to maximize economic and security benefits. This has led to an increasingly multipolar world, where power is no longer solely dictated by Washington or Beijing. So who is winning this showdown? The answer depends on how you define victory. Economically, China is catching up fast, challenging US dominance in key industries and markets. Militarily, the US still holds the upper hand, but China's rapid modernization is narrowing the gap. Diplomatically, both sides are competing fiercely, with China making gains in the developing world, while the US holds on to its traditional allies. This rivalry isn't going away anytime soon, and its outcome will determine the next era of global leadership. Thank you for watching Shifting Powers. If you found this deep dive insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on the biggest geopolitical conflicts shaping our world. Do you think the US will maintain its dominance, or is China destined to take the top spot? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and keep questioning the forces shaping our future.